My wife lied about work to cheat and planned to take half my business, so I quietly gathered evidence. What happened in court shattered her plans. I, 36 male. And my story starts in the most unlikely place, with ice cream. My grandfather owned a small ice cream truck route in Portland that barely kept him afloat. When he passed, I inherited 3 broken-down trucks and $40,000 in debt. Most people would have sold everything and walked away. I almost did. Those first 6 months were brutal. I'd wake up at 4 a.m. to prep inventory, spend 8 hours driving routes through Portland's neighborhoods, then stay up until midnight fixing whatever had broken that day. The trucks were disasters, constantly overheating engines, dying refrigeration units, electrical systems held together with electrical tape and prayer. Portland's food scene was changing rapidly in those early days. Food trucks were becoming trendy, but ice cream trucks were still seen as kid stuff, cheap novelty items that played annoying jingles. I knew I had to be different. While other ice cream operations focused on basic soft serve and pre-packaged treats, I started experimenting with artisanal approaches. I taught myself commercial kitchen regulations, spent weekends at culinary trade shows, and slowly built relationships with local suppliers. Portland's culture of supporting local businesses became my lifeline. Instead of mass-produced ice cream, I partnered with local dairies. Instead of artificial flavors, I worked with urban farms growing unique ingredients. The transformation didn't happen overnight. Year 1, I barely broke even. Year 2, I hired my first employee. By year 5, I had 6 trucks in my first permanent location. The breakthrough came when I started targeting corporate events rather than just neighborhood routes. 15 years later, I own a fleet of 18 gourmet ice cream trucks covering the greater Portland area, plus 2 brick-and-mortar shops. We specialize in artisanal flavors and high-end events. Last year, we cleared a $180,000 profit, and I employed 24 people year-round. Portland shaped everything about how I operate. This city values authenticity, craftsmanship, and supporting local entrepreneurs. My customers aren't just buying ice cream. They're buying into a story of someone who built something real from nothing. That connection to place and community became essential to everything I'd later fight to protect. I know it sounds unusual getting wealthy off ice cream trucks, but we're talking gourmet gelato at tech company parties, wedding receptions, and music festivals. When local tech companies want premium dessert catering, they call me. When Nike's Portland office throws events, I'm there with liquid nitrogen ice cream made tableside. I'm not your typical entrepreneur. I still drive the roads sometimes, still know every mechanic in the city, still get my hands dirty fixing freezer units, but I built something real from nothing and I was proud of it. Then I met Amber at a food truck festival 3 years ago. Amber, 27 female, was working one of those lifestyle influencer angles. You know the type. Perfect Instagram feed, authentic living, brand partnerships, the whole 9 yards. She had around 45,000 followers and made decent money promoting organic skincare and boutique fitness studios. The Portland Food Festival was held in Tom McCall Waterfront Park with food trucks lined up along the Willamette River. It was peak summer season, my busiest time of year. I was running our flagship truck, the one with our liquid nitrogen setup that always draws crowds. The festival was packed with Portland's typical mix of families, young professionals, and tourists trying to experience authentic Portland culture. When she approached my truck, I initially thought she just wanted content for our feed. Portland influencers were constantly documenting the food scene and ice cream trucks made for good visual content, but Amber was different. While other influencers would order, snap photos, take a few bites and move on, she actually waited in line like a regular customer. "This is incredible," she said after trying our lavender honey gelato. "How do you make it so smooth with liquid nitrogen?" Most people ask about the spectacle, the dramatic fog, the theater of it. She asked about the technique. We ended up talking for 20 minutes about crystallization, temperature control, and flavor infusion methods. She seemed genuinely fascinated by the science behind artisanal ice cream production. "Most people see ice cream trucks as kid stuff," she said. "Filming a video of our liquid nitrogen ice cream station. You've turned it into actual art." What impressed me wasn't just her questions, but how she listened to the answers. She asked about profit margins, scaling challenges, seasonal fluctuations, employee management. She understood business fundamentals in a way that surprised me. Here was someone who seemed to genuinely appreciate the complexity of what I built. "Most people see ice cream trucks as kid stuff," she said, filming a video of our liquid nitrogen ice cream station. "You've turned it into actual art." Red flag number 1, Amber had never held a traditional job. The influencer thing was lucrative enough to fund her lifestyle, but it was all built on her looks and personality. No skills, no work ethic, just the ability to make protein smoothies look aspirational. But she was stunning. Mixed heritage, killer smile, the kind of woman who could make a paper bag look like haute couture. And she seemed to get what I'd built in a way most people didn't. We dated for 8 months before I proposed. During that time, I noticed she was incredibly status conscious, but in a subtle way. She'd researched restaurants before we went, not for the food, but to make sure they were worth posting about. She'd ask detailed questions about my income, not directly, but through comments about planning our future together. The wedding cost $85,000. Her contribution: she negotiated promotional partnerships with vendors in exchange for social media exposure. Technically, she saved us money, but I still paid for everything while she got content for our feed. Looking back, I should have seen the pattern. Everything was transactional. The first 2 years of marriage were manageable. Amber played the role of supportive entrepreneur wife for her audience. She'd post behind-the-scenes content from our shops, film day-in-the-life videos featuring our home that I paid for, and built her brand around being married to a successful small business owner. Her follower count grew to around 90,000 and her rates for sponsored content increased accordingly. She was pulling in about $6,000 monthly from partnerships, which wasn't bad, but her expenses were astronomical. Everything had to be Instagram-worthy. Our furniture, her clothes, our vacations, even our groceries. She'd spend $300 at Whole Foods to film one healthy meal prep video, then order takeout because she didn't actually know how to cook the food she'd bought. The car I bought her had to be the right color for her aesthetic. The house we rented, she insisted on upgrading to a more expensive place because the kitchen wasn't photogenic enough. Every decision was filtered through how it would look to her followers, but the real issue was her complete disconnect from actual work. While I was managing trucks, dealing with health inspectors, training employees, and handling the 1,000 daily problems of running a food service business, Amber's biggest stress was whether her morning selfie got enough engagement. "Babe, you don't understand how exhausting content creation is," she'd say when I'd come home after a 12-hour day to find her still in bed at 3 p.m. I have to be on all the time. The entitlement was breathtaking, but it developed gradually. If I worked late during festival season, she'd complain that I was neglecting our relationship. If I suggested cutting back on expenses, she'd argue that her image was our brand and required investment. Then she met Sienna at a Women Entrepreneurs Networking event. Sienna, 42 female, was everything Amber aspired to become: wealthy, influential, and completely ruthless. She ran a high-end life coaching business for women, specializing in optimizing your relationship dynamics and claiming your worth. Her backstory was impressive. She divorced a successful consultant 2 years earlier and walked away with a substantial settlement. Now she taught other women how to maximize their relationship investments through her $3,000 coaching programs. The networking event was held at one of Portland's trendy Pearl District venues, the kind of place where successful women gather to discuss authentic entrepreneurship while drinking $18 cocktails. Amber came home energized in a way I hadn't seen in months. "I met this amazing woman today," she told me, scrolling through business cards. "Sienna. She's built this incredible coaching empire, helping women optimize their relationships and business partnerships." "What kind of coaching?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Life strategy, relationship dynamics. How to ensure you're getting fair value for your emotional and professional investments?" The terminology was already shifting. Instead of talking about our marriage, she was talking about investments and value optimization. Amber was obsessed with her from day one. "Sienna is amazing," she gushed after their sessions. "She's teaching me how to think strategically about our partnership." "Partnership?" I asked. "I thought we were married." "Same thing, but with better boundaries," Amber replied. Scrolling through Sienna's Instagram stories of her upscale condo and luxury car, I could see the changes in Amber immediately, but I initially thought this was just another phase. She'd gone through various self-improvement kicks before: meditation retreats, nutrition coaching, fitness challenges. I figured the life coaching thing would run its course like the others. My first approach was to be supportive and engaged. I asked about her sessions, listened to her new theories about relationship equity, and tried to understand what she was learning. I thought if I showed interest in her personal growth, we could work through whatever issues the coaching was surfacing. "Tell me more about this relationship equity concept," I said one evening after she'd spent an hour explaining Sienna's theories. "It's about ensuring both partners contribute and receive proportional value," she explained. "Most women undervalue their contributions and accept less than they deserve." "What kind of contributions are you thinking about? Emotional labor, social capital, brand building, network development?" "I've been doing tons of unpaid work that directly benefits your business." I tried to engage constructively. "You're right that your social media helps with brand awareness. Maybe we should formalize that somehow. What would fair compensation look like?" But every conversation led to more demands. A formal consulting fee became joint business ownership. Recognition of her contributions became accusations that I was taking advantage of her. No matter how much I tried to accommodate her new perspective, it was never enough. The changes were immediate and dramatic. Amber started talking about relationship equity and compensating for opportunity costs. She'd read books about negotiation tactics and high-value woman strategies. Her entire vocabulary shifted toward business terminology. My second attempt was to address the spending directly. Her coaching investment was costing us $3,000 monthly, plus the expensive lifestyle changes she claimed were necessary for her personal brand development. "Babe, I'm all for investing in yourself," I said carefully. "But maybe we should set a budget for coaching and personal development." This triggered our first major fight about financial control. "You're trying to limit my growth," she shouted. Sienna warned me that insecure partners often try to sabotage women's success. "I'm not trying to sabotage anything. I'm trying to manage our household budget." "Our budget? You mean your budget? I don't have any real say in our finances, do I?" This was factually untrue. She had full access to our accounts and spending freedom within reasonable limits. But Sienna's coaching had reframed every normal marriage discussion as evidence of control and oppression. I tried a different approach, couples counseling. "Maybe we should talk to someone together," I suggested. "Not Sienna, but a neutral counselor who can help us communicate better." "Why would I need couples counseling when I'm already working with a relationship expert?" She replied. "Besides, Sienna says couples therapy often just teaches women to accept less than they deserve." Every solution I proposed was filtered through Sienna's framework and rejected. I was starting to realize that the problem wasn't communication or misunderstanding. The problem was that Amber was being coached to see our marriage as a business arrangement, where she wasn't getting her fair share. "Connor, I've been undervaluing my contributions to our success," she announced one evening. "Sienna helped me realize that my content creation has been essential marketing for your business." This was partially true, but wildly overstated. Yes. Her posts about our shops generated some buzz, but 90% of our business came from corporate contracts and word-of-mouth referrals. "I've basically been working as your unpaid marketing director," she continued. "Sienna says I should be compensated appropriately for that value creation." The demand started small. She wanted a formal consulting fee for her social media work. Then she wanted her name added to business accounts for transparency. Then she wanted access to financial records to better understand our position. But the real poison came in how she started treating me personally. "Sienna says successful women don't settle for men who don't match their energy," became her favorite phrase. "She thinks I could be doing better." Suddenly, my blue-collar background was embarrassing rather than charming. My work schedule was unsustainable for a modern relationship. My casual dress style was not aligned with the image we should be projecting. I thought it was just a face. Rich women's problems. Right? I had no idea what Sienna was really teaching her. About 18 months ago, Amber's behavior shifted dramatically. She'd always been interested in money, but suddenly, she wanted to know everything about our financial position in exhaustive detail. "Babe, I think I should understand our complete financial picture. Sienna says couples should have full transparency." She wanted to know the exact value of the business, our cash flow patterns, asset valuations, insurance policies, even my personal credit score. When I showed her our books, she started taking notes and asking incredibly specific questions about asset protection and business structure. "What would happen to the business if something happened to you? How are the trucks titled? Could we restructure for tax advantages? Sienna says most successful couples have joint ownership of assets. Shouldn't I be listed as co-owner of the business?" Meanwhile, her spending went completely out of control. Her content creation expenses exploded to $8,000 monthly, designer clothes for photo shoots, expensive locations for lifestyle content, costly props, and staging for videos. She hired a photographer, a video editor, and a brand strategist. "This is an investment in our future," she'd explain when I questioned the expenses. "My influence directly translates to business growth." She also started taking expensive trips with Sienna's coaching group, retreats to Scottsdale, workshops in Napa, networking intensives in LA. Each trip cost $5,000 to $8,000 and produced content about living your best life and refusing to settle for less. When I gently suggested the spending was getting out of control, she exploded. "You're trying to control my financial autonomy." Sienna warned me this would happen. Financial control is the first sign of an abusive relationship. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. My wife was accusing me of abuse for questioning why she'd spent $2,000 on a single photo shoot, but I still had no idea how calculated it all was. 4 months ago, I was updating our website when I needed a photo from Amber's phone. She was in the shower, so I grabbed her laptop to access her cloud storage. What I found wasn't just infidelity. It was a masterclass in premeditated destruction. The laptop was in our home office, a converted bedroom overlooking our backyard. I built this space for both of us. Dual monitors, comfortable chairs, good lighting for her content creation work. It was supposed to be our shared workspace, a symbol of our partnership. Instead, it had become the headquarters for planning my destruction. Her browser had dozens of tabs open, which wasn't unusual. But as I clicked through looking for our photo folder, I started noticing the content. Forums about strategic life transitions, blog posts about maximizing relationship investments, YouTube videos about protecting your assets during major life changes. Then I found it. A private Facebook group called Strategic Women's Network with about 50 members. The description read, "A safe space for ambitious women navigating complex relationship and financial transitions, sisterhood, strategy, and success." My hands were literally shaking as I scrolled through the posts. These weren't women supporting each other through normal relationship challenges. This was a strategic planning forum for divorce. The recent posts made my blood run cold. Amber Lifestyle, Month 15 Update. Financial documentation complete. Lifestyle expectations established. Evidence of communication issues collected. Meeting with consultant next week to discuss options. Sienna Coach. Remember ladies, you're not taking anything that isn't rightfully yours. You've invested your prime years in emotional labor. That has value that should be recognized. User Phoenix. Amber, your situation sounds ideal. Service businesses have clear valuations, plus your content shows how much you've contributed to the brand success. I sat there in our office surrounded by photos of our life together, reading my wife's plans to systematically dismantle everything we built. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. This was the same woman who'd made me coffee that morning, who'd kissed me goodbye when I left for work, who'd seemed excited about our weekend plans. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was discovering Amber's second Instagram account, a private one with about 80 followers, sharing empowerment stories and strategies. The account was called Amber Rising and the bio read "Reclaiming My Power, Authentic Journey to Freedom, Women Supporting Women Rising Up, Authentic Life." Her recent posts included photos of expensive purchases with captions like "Investing in myself because I'm worth it." Screenshots of our business's positive reviews with celebration emojis and captions about building empire. A video tour of our house titled "Creating the Sanctuary I Deserve." Group selfies with Sienna's coaching clients captioned "My Sisterhood. Women who understand real value." She'd been documenting her preparation for months, turning her plan to leave me into inspirational content for her secret audience. Every expensive purchase, every self-care trip, every step toward independence was being packaged as empowerment content. The comments were worse than the posts. Dozens of women cheering her on. "You're glowing. Independence looks amazing on you. Can't wait to see your full transformation. He has no idea what's coming. LOL. Document everything, girl. You're going to need it." But there was more, much more. In her message history, I found months of conversations with a guy named Trevor, the photographer she'd been working with. These weren't professional communications. The conversation history showed they'd been romantically involved for about 6 months. Trevor, "Can't wait until you're free to be together properly." Amber, "Soon babe. Just a few more months of playing the part." Trevor, "It's hard watching him touch you." Amber, "Think of it as an investment in our future. This will all be worth it when I'm collecting alimony. LOL. The messages included photos, intimate ones she'd sent him from our bedroom, our bathroom, even from my truck during business events. She'd been conducting a full relationship with this man while sleeping next to me every night. Trevor wasn't some random affair. He was part of her complete exit strategy. They discussed traveling together, moving in together, starting a creative partnership for her social media brand. He was her replacement. Already lined up and waiting. The group chat between Amber, Sienna, and several other women laid out their general approach. Sienna Coach, in Oregon, marriages over 3 years can qualify for spousal support. The key is documenting lifestyle contributions and any controlling behavior patterns. Amber Lifestyle. I've been keeping records of everything. Photos showing the lifestyle disparity when he's in work clothes and I'm dressed for events. Instances where he gets defensive about spending. User Wellness. Document everything that shows your essential role in the business. Social media metrics, client feedback, anything that proves your value. Sienna Coach. Remember, you're not destroying anything. You're claiming your rightful share of what you helped build. Amber Lifestyle. Exactly. And once I'm free, Trevor and I can build the authentic brand I've always wanted. His photography will be perfect for my next phase. User Phoenix. How long until you pull the trigger? Amber Lifestyle. 3 years married will be perfect for support calculations. Probably right after our anniversary. The timing will be poetic LOL. I sat there in our shared office space, staring at these conversations, feeling like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. This woman I'd loved, provided for, and trusted was treating our marriage like a business acquisition to be optimized and liquidated. But I'm not the type to fall apart. When someone tries to destroy what you've built, you don't cry about it. You fight back smarter. But first, I made a critical mistake. For the next week, I was a wreck. I couldn't concentrate at work, barely slept, and found myself studying Amber's behavior for signs of her deception. Every smile felt fake. Every affectionate gesture seemed calculated. Every conversation felt like performance art. My initial instinct was confrontation. I wanted to print out everything I'd found and dump it on our kitchen table. I wanted to scream at her, demand explanations, force her to admit what she was doing. The betrayal was eating me alive and keeping quiet felt impossible. But I knew a direct confrontation would just accelerate her timeline. If I revealed that I knew about her plan, she'd file for divorce immediately, possibly with claims that I'd invaded her privacy or was becoming unstable. I'd lose any strategic advantage, so I tried a different approach, being the perfect husband. My logic was simple. If Amber was planning to leave because she felt undervalued or unsupported, maybe I could win her back by being everything she claimed to want. If her complaints about our relationship had any validity, I'd address them proactively. I started bringing her coffee in bed every morning. I planned surprise date nights at the trendy restaurant she loved posting about. I bought her flowers, complimented her content, and asked more questions about her coaching sessions with Sienna. "You seem really energized by this personal development work," I said over dinner at one of Portland's most Instagram-worthy restaurants. "Tell me more about what you're learning." "It's just nice to feel supported in my growth," she replied, taking photos of her perfectly plated seafood. Sienna says most partners feel threatened when women start claiming their power. "I don't feel threatened. I want you to be successful and fulfilled." "That's what you say now," she said, not looking up from her phone as she edited photos, but actions speak louder than words. I doubled down on the effort. I gave her a $5,000 investment budget for her content creation. I offered to feature her more prominently in my business marketing. I suggested we plan a European vacation for her to create travel content. Nothing worked. Every gesture was met with skepticism or dismissed as too little too late. The coaching had poisoned her perspective so thoroughly that my attempts at improvement were seen as manipulation. "You're only being nice because you sense me pulling away," she said during one of our therapy-adjacent conversations. Sai warned me that controlling partners often love bomb when they feel their grip loosening. "I'm being nice because I love you and want our marriage to work." "Love isn't enough, Connor. I need a partner who matches my energy and supports my vision for the future." The worst part was watching her document my efforts for her secret audience. The surprise date nights became content for her private Instagram about finally getting the attention I deserve. The flowers I bought her were photographed with captions like "training him to appreciate me." My attempts to save our marriage were being reframed as evidence that her strategy was working. 2 weeks of playing the perfect husband only made things worse. Amber became more entitled, more demanding, and more convinced that she deserved better than what our marriage offered. Instead of winning her back, I was inadvertently providing her with evidence that she could manipulate me. The final straw came when I found a new post in her secret Facebook group. "Amber lifestyle update. He's definitely sensing something. Started love bombing hard, fancy dinners, gifts, suddenly interested in my personal growth, textbook controlling behavior when they feel you slipping away." Sienna was right. This just confirms I'm making the right choice. Sienna coach, classic pattern. The fact that he can be this attentive when motivated proves he was choosing not to before. Document everything. This desperate phase will be useful evidence. User Phoenix. "How pathetic. Trevor would never treat you like an afterthought until he felt threatened. I was trying to save my marriage and they were using it as evidence against me." Every loving gesture was being weaponized in service of her exit strategy. That's when I realized the truth. There was no fixing this. Amber didn't want our marriage to improve. She wanted it to fail. She needed it to fail because failure justified her plan to take half of everything I'd built. Time to show them what real strategic planning looks like. The next 6 weeks were the most difficult acting job of my life. I had to pretend everything was normal while secretly protecting my assets and documenting Amber's betrayal. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was now doing exactly what Amber had been doing for months. The difference was that I was protecting something I'd legitimately built from someone trying to steal it rather than plotting to destroy someone who'd supported me. First, I hired an excellent divorce attorney in Portland, a woman named Rachel who specialized in business asset protection and had experience with social media evidence. Her office was in one of downtown Portland's glass towers, the kind of place that screamed competence and cost serious money. "I need to show you something," I said during our initial consultation, placing printed screenshots on her mahogany conference table. Rachel had handled hundreds of divorce cases, but her eyebrows still raised as she reviewed Amber's social media planning and affair documentation. "Your wife doesn't understand the legal implications of what she's been doing," Rachel said after 30 minutes of review. "We're going to use her own documentation against her." Is what she's planning even legal? Planning a divorce isn't illegal, but documenting it as a strategic extraction while conducting an affair and wasting marital assets, that creates significant legal problems for her. Rachel's strategy was methodical and comprehensive. We spent 3 hours in that first meeting outlining every aspect of protection and counter-documentation I'd need to implement. Step 1 was protecting the business. This required restructuring my business ownership in ways that were legitimate, but strategic. I brought in my cousin Mike as a minority partner with a genuine $50,000 investment in exchange for 15% ownership. Mike had always wanted to get into food service, and this gave him a stake in something real while protecting my majority control. The restructuring wasn't just about ownership percentages. We created detailed operating agreements that specified management roles, profit distribution, and decision-making authority. These documents clearly established that Amber had never been involved in business operations, financial management, or strategic planning. We also gathered extensive documentation proving that Amber's social media contributions were minimal to our actual revenue. I pulled corporate contracts, event booking records, client testimonials, and financial statements showing that our growth came from operational excellence, not Instagram marketing. Food service businesses succeed through consistency, quality, and customer service, Rachel explained. Social media might generate awareness, but it doesn't create revenue. We'll demonstrate that clearly. But Rachel's real insight was in documenting the pattern of financial irresponsibility. She's been spending marital assets on personal branding and an affair, Rachel explained. In Oregon, that's considered waste of marital resources. It affects the final settlement calculation. Every expensive trip became evidence of financial waste. Every designer purchase for content creation was documented as non-marital spending. Every hotel room she'd shared with Trevor was cataloged as adultery-related expense. We built a comprehensive financial analysis showing that Amber had spent approximately $65,000 of our joint funds on activities that benefited only her personal brand and affair. This wasn't normal marriage spending. It was systematic diversion of resources for personal gain. We also started making legitimate business investments that I've been putting off. The $120,000 expansion loan was for refrigeration equipment we genuinely needed. The $60,000 line of credit covered seasonal inventory purchases that would generate real revenue. These weren't fake debts. They were strategic timing of real business needs. In Oregon, marital debts get split between spouses, Rachel explained, but marital asset waste can be recovered from the responsible party. Your wife thinks she's getting half your assets, but she's also inheriting half your debts while owing reimbursement for her financial waste. The mathematics were beautiful. Amber was planning to claim assets while I'd be taking on strategic debt and recovering her wasteful spending. But the real masterpiece was building our own evidence file. Rachel connected me with a digital forensics expert who helped me legally document everything I'd discovered. We created comprehensive records of Amber's secret social media accounts, her affair with Trevor, and her planning with Sienna's group. The key is provable documentation, the forensics expert explained during our meeting in a downtown Portland cybersecurity firm. Screenshots can be disputed, but metadata and digital fingerprints are much harder to challenge. We also started monitoring our shared computer usage and recording conversations in common areas of our home. Oregon is a one-party consent state for recording, which meant I could legally document our interactions as long as I was present. Every cruel comment about my lack of ambition was recorded. Every dismissive response to my efforts at improvement was documented. Every conversation where she painted me as controlling or unsupportive was preserved for legal review. The trap was perfect and completely legal. Amber thought she was playing chess while I was learning checkers. In reality, I'd been building a comprehensive legal defense while she was still figuring out her opening moves. While I was building my defense strategy, Amber's behavior became increasingly brazen. She wasn't even trying to hide her planning anymore. She'd stay out late claiming client meetings and return with obvious signs she'd been with someone else. When I'd ask about her evening, she'd get defensive and accuse me of being possessive and controlling. I'm building a business, Connor. I can't be successful if you're questioning my every move. Her business apparently required a lot of private meetings with Trevor. Every photo shoot became an excuse for another expensive outing. Another luxury purchase, another step toward her exit. The worst part was how she started treating me publicly. At industry events, she'd introduce herself as a lifestyle entrepreneur and barely acknowledge I existed. She'd spend entire evenings networking while I stood alone, watching my wife build relationships that might be useful in her future. Connor's more comfortable behind the scenes. She'd tell people when they ask why I seem disconnected. He's not really the social type. She also started bringing Trevor to some events as her creative director. This guy would show up in expensive clothes and act like he belonged in our professional circle. "I hope you don't mind, man," he said to me at one networking event while standing too close to my wife. "Amber said you were cool with her expanding her creative team." I watched my wife flirt with her lover while he disrespected me in front of my peers. Other business owners noticed. Clients felt uncomfortable, and I had to stand there and take it because I couldn't reveal what I knew. The final insult came when Amber posted a video on her private Instagram about evolving beyond your current situation. She talked about outgrowing relationships that no longer serve your growth. Sometimes you have to make difficult choices to become who you're meant to be, she said while wearing a $1,200 outfit I'd paid for. It's scary but necessary. Her private followers encouraged her. Choose yourself. Claim your power. They were cheering for her to abandon me. That night, I called Rachel and told her I was ready to file. Amber approached me with divorce papers on a Tuesday morning, exactly 3 years and 2 months after our wedding, calculated timing for spousal support eligibility. She came home that evening with her rehearsed speech. Connor, I need to talk to you about something important. I paused what I was doing and turned to face her, playing my role one last time. I've been doing a lot of soul-searching about our relationship, she continued, and I think we've grown in different directions. I need space to focus on my personal development and business growth. Every word was carefully chosen to sound mature while establishing that I was limiting her potential. I think it would be healthiest for both of us if we separated. Of course, I want this to be fair and amicable. We can work out reasonable arrangements for everything. I nodded thoughtfully like a confused husband processing unexpected news. This feels really sudden, I said. Are you sure this is what you want? I've been thinking about it for a while, she replied, revealing more than intended. I mean, these feelings have been building. Yes, I'm sure. I guess I should probably talk to a lawyer then, I said sadly. I already spoke with someone just to understand the process, she said, but we don't need to rush anything. We can take our time and handle this maturely. She actually seemed sympathetic as she went upstairs to message her support network. I waited exactly 24 hours before revealing my hand. The next evening, I asked Amber to sit down for a follow-up conversation. She came downstairs expecting to discuss logistics and her financial expectations. Instead, I quietly placed printed documents on the coffee table. Before we talk about next steps, I said calmly, I think you should know that I'm aware of your planning process. I spread out screenshots from her private social media accounts, excerpts from the Facebook group, and photos of her with Trevor. Her face went from confidence to confusion to panic in about 30 seconds. Connor, this isn't what it looks like. Actually, it's exactly what it looks like, I said calmly. I filed response papers this morning. My attorney has been preparing our case for 6 weeks, I continued, laying out evidence, documentation of her private planning with Sienna's group, financial records showing misuse of marital funds for personal branding and her affair, evidence of her deception and adultery, business analysis proving her minimal contribution to our actual success, records of her wasteful spending on non-marital purposes. The good news is that Oregon is a no-fault divorce state, I continued. The bad news for you is that adultery and financial waste still affect asset division and support calculations. I explained what she was actually facing instead of what she'd planned. The divorce proceedings took 8 months and weren't the victory Amber had planned. When Rachel presented our evidence, the mediator recommended a settlement heavily favoring my position. Amber's attorney quickly realized their client had significantly damaged her own case and advised accepting the settlement rather than going to trial. The final division was harsh but fair. Assets Amber received, 15% of liquid savings, about $18,000. Her personal belongings and influencer equipment, her personal vehicle. Assets I retained, 100% business ownership protected structure plus evidence of minimal contribution. Primary residence offset by her financial waste. Business vehicles and equipment, investment accounts, financial obligations. Amber owed reimbursement for affair-related expenses, $35,000. Amber responsible for her portion of debts incurred for personal use, 28%. $1,000 limited spousal support, $1,200 per month for 18 months, reduced due to adultery and waste. Each party responsible for own legal fees. Additional consequences. Amber required to remove all business-related content from her social media. Non-disclosure agreement, preventing her from discussing business operations. Non-compete clause preventing her from working with competing food service businesses. While not the complete destruction I might have wanted, it was a fair result that held her accountable for her choices. 6 months after our divorce was finalized, I started receiving occasional calls. Amber called a few times, initially angry about the settlement, then later more reflective about her choices. She'd moved to a smaller apartment, was working part-time while trying to rebuild her social media presence, and dealing with the financial reality of her decisions. I know I made mistakes, she said during our last conversation. I got caught up in Sienna's advice and lost sight of what really mattered. The planning, the secret accounts, the affair, those weren't mistakes, I replied. They were choices. I hope you've learned from them. She tried to extend the conversation, but I kept it brief and cordial. Sienna's coaching business suffered significantly when several clients had negative experiences, and she eventually moved to a different city to restart her career. Trevor predictably moved on to other opportunities once Amber's financial situation changed.